Hello everyone, hopefully you are having an amazing day. I'm Muhammad Naeem Amin Bhatti and today we are going to discuss the topic of film and reality. The art imitates nature. It was basically a question mark which was put upon by Aristotle on the very much of our today's terminology which we use as an art, but Aristotle has said that the art is basically the imitation. So after that we talk about the nature, and the nature described in the films is certainly is not a real nature, but in Renaissance it was changed by the dramas of the William Shakespeare and university wits, that they have used the art in their own way and separated the nature from them. After that, impressionism was created at that time, and the realist critics, especially Tolstoy and Balzac, are the person who introduced the reality in our natural world. And that was the terminology started at that time with the naturalism, and was called after that Dogma 95. If we talk about anti-realist tradition in movies and films and in the theaters, then they use the abstract art in the anti-realist tradition, that nothing is certain in that particular type of movie or the film or in any type of the theatrical play. And avant-garde means that they use the fake steps and the fake things and the fake settings in these movies. And after that, modernism was involved in anti-realist tradition, and postmodernism things were also introduced at that time. So why should these images not liberate the imagination from the tedium of reality, introducing us the world of abstractions or of dreams instead? If we talk about the caricature, he was the first person, Seifert caricature, who once again used the exponent of realism in cinema. And caricature argues that because film literally photographs the reality, it alone is capable of holding the mirror up to the nature. His seminal work from the Caligrade or to the Hitler is an analysis of the Caligrade's landscape as the German cinema turning away from a reality which is haphazard, incapable of contributing in all the cinematic things or the cinematic graphic principle. So reality is always intermingled with the fake things. So, realism and individual ideology are side by side the things which are used in the cinema, and Carrier has described that by adopting the fantasy rather than realism, German cinema helped fuel the rise of the Nazis by not attempting to the mirror of reality of what was going on in the society. So German cinema achieved the domination, not the redemption of the German life, but after intermingleness of the reality and idealism. If we talk about the Bazin Cahier's du cinema, he says that there is always a duality in the cinema, the reality and the ideology. So, founded the crucial French film magazine and pinpointed the technological power of the camera, still and motion picture to satisfy the human desire throughout the time to recreate the world in its own image. So Bazin's realist aesthetic players were such that the Jan Renier used this technique by amalgamating the reality and idealism. Orson Welles and William Wyler were some people who used this technique. If we talk about the Italians, they gave it the name of neorealism. Neorealism means the fake realism, the realism intermingled with the idealism. So non-professional actors or the normal people were there, natural settings were there, and simple believable narratives were formed at that time. After that, Adolf Arnhem art definition is that he questioned whether mere mechanical reproduction of the reality is art or not. He describes the true artistic urge as not simply copy but to originate and interpret to a special mold or a special given model. We talk about the independent experimental of avant-garde. He has given the Maya Deren and Stan Brakhage has used these techniques. Deren fused both of the traditions together by photographing the reality and then using the slow motion pictures, reverse motion and the freeze frames, etc. These were some intermingleness which were described in the cinematography and film. After that, Brakhage liberation of the eye concept was much popular in that era, an act of seeing the previously unimagined and defined by the conventions of the representation. He described the cinema as the new unrealized magic and subsequently challenged the realist traditions. If we talk about the Jean-Louis Bardy's film as a dream, he says that the film is actually a continuous form of dream, and this concept was denied after this concept was given. Observes that the film resembles to the dream, audience movements are inhabited and sits in the darkened places and images projected on the screen. Psychoanalytical theory was there by the segment prize. So the psychoanalysis of each and everything, the regression to state of the primitive narcissism were there. So Neil Carroll was the person who basically described the concept against the film as a dream. So the challenges Barde by pointing out that many spectators leave the cinema for a smoke and that images are publicly available, not for the individual. He also points out that we understand the film for the better than the dreams. And Gilles Deleuze says that World War II cinema and post World War II cinema, in particularly neorealism, as more important than the advent of sound. So the rational cuts are ignored in favor of the new art, which is more concerned with the fragmentation and discontinuity of the narrative structure, like ASA structure, that actions create situations which creates the new situations rather than the traditional Hollywood where SAS is dominant. So the Stephen Prince has given the concept of CGI, which is the context of the debate that when faced the digital or the digitized image, will we need to discard the notions of realism in the cinema or not? That is still a question mark. So Prince believed that actually we need both. The links between the fictional reality and the visual social coordinations of our own 3D world are the crucial, and unreal images have never seemed so real. So that's it from today's lecture, and hopefully I will see you in next video. Goodbye from me.